This is what the character selection screen in Mario Kart 8 looked like when it was first released. And this is what it looks like now. As for all of the tracks we could play, it looked like this, and now it looks like this. But wait a minute, if I push the R button, there's 48 more tracks! The Booster Course Pass DLC added so much to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that playing the original Wii U game is like useless. Just take this and throw it in the trash. All of these 48 tracks have a lot of hidden secrets and details, and today I'm gonna be checking out all of the tracks and letting you know about everything that I found about those. Alright, let's just jump into it. First off, let's check out Paris Promenade, a track that is set, well, in Paris, duh. Obviously, since it takes place in a real city, well, there's a couple landmarks that have to be there, otherwise, how would we tell it's actually Paris and not just a random French city? Obviously, the Eiffel Tower is there with all of its beauty. We even get to race underneath it, which is kinda neat. I don't think you can do that in real life actually, you're probably gonna get arrested, who knows. When the race begins, you are faced with the Arc de Triomphe, and after a while, you'll glide above the Jardin du Trocadéro, and finally, you'll drive close to the Obélisque de Luxor, that big tower over there. Taking place in Paris, all of the signs are in French, so these banners over there say Paris met les gaz, which is some sort of pun meaning that Paris is actually proud to have Mario Kart racing in the city. This pink one over there says Mario Kart passe à Paris, or Mario Kart is in Paris. Neat details. With Paris being a city visited by a lot of tourists each year, well, there has to be a bunch of things to buy in the many booths operated by Shy Guys and Toads. There's the billetterie here, or the ticket booth, probably to go visit the Eiffel Tower. You can get some drinks from this booth, ice cream from this one, and candies from that fourth one. Just make sure to avoid pickpockets while you shop there. Close to the finish line, you'll see a restaurant, a beauty salon, and a travel agency, so you'll be eating in style and you'll be ready to book your tickets back home. Finally, you probably noticed that the final lap in this track is actually different from the first two, making you go a different way and allowing you to see the gardens from another angle. This is pretty cool, even though it can lead to a very weird glitch where there is an invisible ramp. I actually made an entire video dedicated to that glitch, so make sure to check it out after this one. Next up is the track that actually caused the ugly graphics controversy when it was first revealed. And I guess I kind of agree. Toad's Circuit is pretty ugly. I mean, take a look at the grass. It's just made of a green coat of paint. There's no texture, no detail. It's plain green and ugly. Compare it to the grass in Moo Moo Meadows and you'll see it's night and day. Heck, even the fans cheering you in the background are actually made out of 2D sprites running at like 15 FPS. This is just plain laziness at this point. And to be fair, this track doesn't have much hidden detail either. It's a generic circuit with not much going on. There's a couple Mario Kart TV trucks all over the place, and the cameraman Toad on top of it does follow your moves when you get close to it, which is actually kind of neat. But besides the camera dude, well, this track is kind of ugly and pretty bland. N64 Choco Mountain finally makes a comeback, and this track has evolved quite a bit since the Mario Kart 64 version. As you stand on this part over there and gaze upon the sky, well, you can see that this mountain is quite tall. We are actually above cloud levels, so trust me, we don't want to fall down. There are flying paratroopas cheering for the drivers along the way, and there's this section that has boulders falling down from the mountain into the water. As you can see, there are fish bones and fossils on the wall, suggesting that this whole area was once filled with water, which is kind of a neat detail. The falling boulders look pretty menacing and scary, but it's just for looks. I actually tried to get crushed by those over and over again, and no matter what I did, these boulders just wouldn't crush me. Maybe this is a time trial thing, but I just don't get it. and those boulders are no longer made out of chocolate like they did in the Mario 64 version, so that is actually a big disappointment. Next up is a fan favorite, a track that can do no wrong, Coconut Mall. And let me tell you that this new version of Coconut Mall is filled to the brim with details and stuff you need to check out. Sure, there's a couple of unpopular changes, so I guess let's address them right away. The escalators have been replaced by inclined treadmills, which is a bit weird considering most malls actually have escalators, but whatever, I can live with that. My biggest complaint has to be the cars at the end that have been completely ruined. In the Wii version of this track, there were cars driving left and right, creating an obstacle to dodge, and those cars were driven by your Miis, which is super cool. Well, now in the new version, these cars are just parked there, no longer moving, and they are driven by Shy Guys. You can't even get hurt by those anymore. Bummer. The car's license plate reads POW, which is a reference to the POW block, so that's kinda cool. The outside of the mall also looks kinda neat, being super wide and featuring a giant parking lot, which we can sadly not visit. Let's check out the shops inside of the mall, because there are tons of them. Kamek Bookstore, Toad Toy Store, Fireflower Curie House, Pianta Cafe, Shy Guy Records, Barrel Travel, Dino Dino Camping Gear, and Super Marine World dive shops are only a few you can spot. Heck, there's even a bunch of ads of Vanilla Lake, which is a SNES track that is definitely getting added in future waves of this DLC, mark my words. As you go down this path here, you can see a beautiful mural featuring classic Mario elements, like blocks and pipes. And if you're looking for the toilets, well, they're on the right down there. Hungry? Well, the brand new food park has everything you need, from mushrooms, stars, flowers, to epic lemonade and colas. And if you're looking for something to buy quickly, well, here's the largest vending machine in the entire world. The cans from this one are so big, they will last you for at least a week. Seriously, this level is filled with details, and it's no wonder it's still one of my favorite tracks ever. Another track set in a real-life city is up, Tokyo Blur. To be honest, I'm not as familiar with Tokyo as I am with Paris, meaning that I'm sure there's a lot of landmarks that I probably missed. What I know is that each lap on this track brings you to a different part of the city, and that's actually pretty cool. The Wako store is featured in all 3 laps, and we can see the Tokyo Skytree in the background, as well as the Asahi Beer Hall. You'll be driving past arcades, gacha machines, and will even be driving on the highway. Also, is that Mount Fuji in the background there? Cause if so, well, that's pretty cool. Driving so fast doesn't allow you to visit the city the way it's meant to be visited, so hop on a Yoshi chariot ride, won't you? This rendition of Tokyo is pretty cool and makes me want to visit the city. Maybe one day I will, who knows? Alright, fun fact about this track. It originates from Mario Kart DS, but back when it was first revealed, the website for the Mario Kart Booster Pass DLC actually mentioned that the game came from Mario Kart 7, which was a funny mistake. Yeah. Anyways, this track isn't that special when it comes to details. It's a basic highway in the mountains featuring cars that you have to avoid. I checked out the license plates to see if they had some funny hidden Easter eggs like the one in Mario Kart Wii do, but alas, all of the cars just have MK and a bunch of numbers next to it. These numbers don't seem to mean anything special, but one of the plates does feature the funny number, so yeah, there's that. Shortcuts have been added to this stage, one before you enter the tunnel and one near the finish line. And to be honest, that's all I could find for this track. It's super generic and definitely not the most detailed. Oh, wait a minute. The minimap has been turned around 60 degrees compared to the Mario Kart DS one. Yeah, that's a fun fact you definitely wanted to hear, right? Right? Okay, let's just move to the next one. Next up is GBA Sky Garden. Although calling it GBA Sky Garden is kind of a stretch, as this track has been completely remade in Mario Kart Tour, and that's pretty much the version we're getting in the booster pass. I mean, just comparing the minimap from the GBA to the Switch version shows us that the track was severely altered. It doesn't make it a bad course, it's just not the same circuit. The background is filled with giant beanstalks that are growing on a mushy cloud. Speaking of, there's also a bunch of warp pipes on those floating clouds, and there are some Bowser pirate ships in the background. This one in particular really reminds me of one from Super Mario 3D Land, which is kind of neat. Funny thing about this track is that you can actually drive on the big puffy clouds, which does slow you down, but it's still kinda cool to be able to do it. The end of the track features a gliding section, which isn't particularly useful, especially considering it can be skipped altogether if you're a true gamer and are able to do this epic trick. Does it save time to do that? Well, not really, it's way too risky, but it does look cool anyways. So, despite being from Mario Kart Tour, Ninja Hideway is the only track not having the title icon on the course selection screen, which is kinda odd. Pretty sure this is going to be patched eventually, as the website clearly states it's from Tour, but anyways, this track is lovely, featuring multiple paths, gliding sections, tons of ramps to do tricks on, and even a well-hidden super useful shortcut. There's also a bunch of Shy Guy ninjas, which are kinda spooky, so be careful. This section is filled to the brim with delicious looking food, which sadly cannot be eaten as you have to dodge the ceiling that falls down on you. Look at those spiky shurikens, you don't want to mess with those. I also noticed that the temple contains a couple of Wario references, like this golden nose and mustache sign, as well as a bunch of garlic shaped windows. I was actually expecting the statues to be Wario-esque in this temple, but alas, they just represent some random buff dudes. I actually wonder who these guys are supposed to be. Anyways, you'll also be visiting an underground tunnel with water falling down from it, and you'll also have to go up this staircase, which actually makes no sense when you drive up it very slowly. I mean, look at that, I'm actually floating in midair. Okay, in fact, there's a lot of floating in midair going on in Ninja Hideway, but it's still one of my favorite tracks ever though. This one was obviously going to make the cut, as it's one of the coolest Mario Kart Tour tracks. Welcome to New York Minute, a track taking place in the Big Apple. And as it is based on a real life city, well, it's going to be full of real landmarks. Look at Times Square, looking fabulous in glorious HD, and look at the big advertising screens. They showcase cool stuff such as the Banana Boy smash hit musical, the Donkey Kong musical, aka the best one, Barrel Travel, and a few other brands. There's also a big screen showcasing the classic Donkey Kong arcade layout. It almost reminds me of Super Mario Odyssey's very own New Donk City in a way. Close to the starting line, you'll be able to see a comedy club, a dinner, a deli, a restaurant, and New York's famous hot dog stands. I wish I could eat one of those delicious glizzies. You'll be racing from Broadway to Central Park, featuring beautiful trees, benches, and enormous Goombas, probably to symbolize New York's famous big scary rats. You'll also get to visit the Rockefeller Center, which, if you're not aware of it, is where the Nintendo New York store is actually located. This makes me wish one part of the track would take place inside the store itself. Anyways, as you're racing, you'll be able to see the wonderful Empire State Building and the St. Patrick's Cathedral, and as you can see, they're looking pretty faithful to the real-life versions. As you are racing in the streets, get ready to meet a bunch of taxis, all from the Green Shell Taxi Company. And one thing that is weird is that these taxis don't move, they're kinda just parked in the middle of the street. That can't be legal. There's also big tourist buses from Toad City, which is a bit odd considering we are in New York City. I guess Toad City is just visiting New York City? We'll never know. Next up is a very classic track that originates from the Super Nintendo game, but was also present in the Wii one, Mario Circuit 3. For those of you that have played it, you know this is a very simple racetrack that doesn't actually feature that many cool details. No slopes, no anti-gravity, just a simple racetrack for karts. A couple of spectators were actually added in the background, such as Toads, Shy Guys, and Piranha Plants, as well as a couple of flagpoles located in the center of the track, which is actually a neat detail. This track always contains oil spills, which are pretty annoying, and this new version of Mario Kart decided to clean up the oily mess. Nah, just kidding, they just put cones in front of them to warn you about potential car accidents. You know what? Maybe if this track gets ported again in the future in Mario Kart 12, the oil will finally be cleaned. But you know what? I wouldn't count on it. This next one is a favorite of mine, and one I would love to play over and over again as a kid. N64 Calimari Desert is back, along with the evil train that can crush your hopes and dreams. Although it seems like they actually made the train shorter than it used to be. This track was already part of Mario Kart Tour, so this is the version that was brought to the Booster Pass. And I have to tell you that this is a great revision of the classic track, adding new elements such as this big slope you can glide off of, as well as a driving section in the tunnel itself. I actually made a Nico short video where I was exploring the tunnel in the original N64 version, and there wasn't much to it. But now, it's actually part of the racetrack, making this one the definitive way to experience the desert. Just like New York Minute, this track has a couple differences in between laps, and lap 2 adds this big ramp that will bring you right in the train tracks and eventually down the dark tunnel. This ramp is only there for lap 2, and just like Paris Promenade, if you play it with 2 players and one of you is on lap 1 and the other on lap 2, well, this will lead to some funny looking moments, like here where we see floating drivers, or this one where a driver is going right through the ramp. While you're not visiting the tunnel, you'll get to see a bunch of billboards advertising different companies from the Mushroom Kingdom, such as Mario Work Gear, Banana Boy, Bullet Bill Speed Trial, 1UP Fuel, and even the Green Shell Taxi. You know, the company that had all of those cabs in New York Minute. Pretty cool detail. While Waluigi may not have his very own game series, he has a couple of tracks, and DS Waluigi Pinball is definitely the very best. Right as you start the race, you'll be sucked into this light tunnel, which is actually way cooler than it used to be in Mario Kart DS. I mean, look at all the pretty colors! Anyway, at the end of the tunnel, there's a big screen featuring Waluigi next to the name of the track, and under it, there's another screen displaying Waluigi number 1, which is actually the truth. Waluigi is always gonna be number 1 in my heart. When you finally land on the pinball machine, well, get ready to dodge the pinballs, the bumpers, and all of the other hazards on the way. Oh, by the way, have you noticed how there's ads all around the pinball machine itself? Companies such as Fuzzy Battery, Road Service MAA, Mario Motors, and more can all be spotted, and I guess that makes sense, as building a giant pinball machine must be hella expensive and will definitely require some sponsorship money. Every time you grab an item box on this track, well, the sound effect that the game makes will be retro, which is actually super cool. Same thing for the sound after each lap. This was also the case in Mario Kart DS, but I'm super glad they brought it back. Above the tunnel, where an evil Waluigi statue used to loom over you on the DS version, now sits a wooden sign of Waluigi, with his head nodding left and right, which is actually kinda cool. The slot machine underneath this sign also shows a bunch of different Mario Kart items, all of which can be obtained in this version of the game. Some flying paratroopas can be seen around the track spectating your every move, so make sure not to suck, okay? as the Mario Kart TV helicopter is also flying above you at all times, capturing some epic highlights to show you after the race. Here's another track inspired by the real world. Welcome to Sydney Sprint, a track taking place in Australia and allowing you to spot many different landmarks that I'd love to visit one day when I go meet Luke and Kev from SMG4. But for now, let's check out the different places we can visit in the game itself, such as the Sydney Opera House, a venue for shows and art showcases. It seems like we are on floor Yoshi Egg according to the sign next to the elevator. Why not use numbers? Using symbols like a Yoshi egg is super confusing. Anyways, some ugly looking 2D spectators moving at 15 frames per second will be cheering for you as you fly out the Opera House and fly into an amusement park, which bears strong resemblance to Luna Park. The real life version seems to feature a very scary looking face that acts as a gate. And you know what? I'm actually glad this is not part of the Mario Kart version. That thing is just terrifying. The track also features the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Tangara trains with passengers throwing out coins your way. On your first lap, you're not going to be able to use the ramps located on that bridge, but for lap 2 and lap 3, you'll be on the right side, meaning you'll be able to go quite fast. If you're not into crossing bridges, don't panic, as you can also ride the Sydney Harbour passenger ferry and meet everyone that commutes there every single day. Hello passengers, how are you doing today? You'll also be driving near the Mary Booth Lookout Reserve before making your way back to the Port Jackson area. And if you're hungry, you might want to eat some blooper seafood. Is blooper the seafood, or is the chef making the seafood blooper? I think we don't want to know that. Well, this one was a big surprise. I wasn't actually expecting GBA Snowland to make its debut before Vanilla Lake, but this is actually super cool. Obviously, as this track was originally for the GBA, well, the graphics are just insane compared to what it used to look like. I mean, take a good look. Can you even tell it's the same track? What I like the most about this one is that they actually put effort into making it really cool and different by adding ramps and different altitudes. Between you and I, they could have done the same thing with Mario Circuit 3 to make it actually worth your time, but hey, let's focus on the good stuff. What we have here is an amazing snow track featuring snow, ice, and everyone's favorite penguins. Yes, they're back. Make sure not to run them over though. They follow a set path and will always end up jumping in the water. I tried to join them, but I wouldn't do it if I were you. Once again, spectators are located all over the track cheering for the racers, and as you can see, the Toads are actually wearing winter jackets this time around. What a neat detail. The original track had tons of holes on the ice, and it seems that a lot of those have been patched in this revision, and there's also fewer snowmen on your way. You can go out of your way to destroy them if you actually feel like a bully. Next up is Mushroom Gorge, a fan favorite, and this track hasn't changed that much over the years, although it has now been filled with ads and billboards all over the place. Man, I swear there are ads all over the place nowadays, even on YouTube itself. The cave part of the track is now filled with bright crystals lighting up the section, making it look super cool, and the light from these crystals probably has healing and growing properties, because I swear there are now way more mushrooms in the cave compared to the Wii version. In fact, instead of having two different paths, there's now a third one with a blue mushroom that allows you to glide your way through the cave. Oh heck yeah! These jumps always made me super nervous. So I'm super glad I actually have an alternative now. If you go left instead of bouncing on the mushroom over there, well, there are now speed boosts that have been added, rendering this left section not so useless anymore. On 200cc, I'm sure this super shortcut over the ramp near the end can be done. I'm just not good enough myself, but I know somebody will figure it out. Finally, there are more Toads and Paratroopas located all over the tracks, cheering for the driver, which is always welcomed. Now this is a cool surprise. Here's a brand new track to end the Propeller Cup. Welcome to Sky High Sundae. And if you're hungry right now, well, you might want to close your eyes, as this track is full of frosting, ice cream, and a bunch of delicious frozen treats. The track starts off inside of this icy restaurant full of customers having delicious ice creams. Yoshis are there to serve you your favorite treat, and I soon noticed that this restaurant is actually inside the freezer of a giant pink fridge. Yo, this is super cool. As you race on the dairy deliciousness, you'll see a bunch of shops, like this soft serve one, this ice cream truck, or even these ice pop, ice cream, and ice cafe shops. Man, I wish we could actually enter all of those and taste everything. A giant ice cream will await you at the top of this ramp, and as you go down, you'll land on some ice cream waffles and those melted ice cream cones. Oh, by the way, have you noticed that the helicopter is now in the shape and look of an ice cream cone? Now this is suiting. You'll ride on blocks of ice and will make your way back into the fridge to finish a lap. If you're wondering where the cream and milk to make those delicious treats comes from, wonder no more, as this big billboard of the Moo Moo Meadow Milk Company is definitely the answer to that question. What a cool original track, I love it. Wave 2 is amazing. It's time to visit a real-life city once more, and this time, London is the destination. As you can expect from those tour tracks, you'll be seeing some real-life monuments as you begin the race on the Westminster Bridge. You'll soon see the big Nelson column right in front of you to then drive through the Leadenhall Market. You'll also be able to see the London Eye Ferris wheel a couple of times during the race, and you'll cross the famous Tower Bridge. If you thought this was the only bridge you'd be crossing today, you'd be wrong, as the Waterloo Bridge also makes an appearance during the second lap. Of course, your tour of London wouldn't be the same if you didn't see Big Ben and Buckingham Palace. In fact, there are so many landmarks on this track that I probably missed a couple. London Loop is by far the most detailed Mario Kart Tour track of all those DLC waves released so far. Oh, and London Loop wouldn't be London without the inclusion of the double-decker buses, the famous red telephone booths, and those big red post boxes. New shops run by the inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom have made their way to London, such as Princess Peach's Jewels, Roy's Smooth Sound, Chain Chump's Racing Chains, and a couple more. I hope that you didn't spend all of your money during Christmas and Black Friday, because there's a big sale right now at the Toad Shopping Plaza, up to 70% off everything! Now this is a sweet deal. Next up is a track that received quite the overhaul. GBA Boo Lake looks nothing like its GBA version, now featuring a section taking place underwater with anti-gravity. In fact, now that I think about it, the original version didn't even feature water at all. Why is it called Boo Lake if there is no lake? Cringe. Thankfully, this is all solved now, and there's even fish bones swimming in that lake, proving that this is quite the spooky one. Boos will be watching you throughout the track, although they no longer hold candles in their hands, which is a bit disappointing. But this spooky mansion in the background makes up for it, as it features swoopers coming out of the top window and flying behind those boulders over there. Ooh, creepy. To be completely honest with you, 3DS Rock Mountain is actually super faithful to the Mario Kart 7 version, featuring almost no changes whatsoever, besides some graphical updates here and there. I think the biggest change here is the fact that the big section where you go up the mountain and dodge the boulders is now an anti-gravity section, allowing you to get boosts by hitting other players or the bumpers that were added to the track itself. You can still glide near the end and use those pipes to skip this section of the track, which is always super helpful. Did you miss Wee Maple Treeway? Because I know I did, And wow, does this track look good! You'll be racing on tree stumps and branches, and the details on the track just make it lovely. There's little houses scattered throughout the race, which we can't enter sadly, but we can still get a good look at those. Our buddies the Wigglers are back, and they still walk around in circle trying to block you, and if you run at them at full speed now, you will spin around instead of just bunking like you did in Mario Kart Wii. The wooden bridge near the end of the track has been made more secure with the addition of a handrail, but I tested it and it's pretty much useless. Also, the fishnet near the end has been completely removed and has been replaced by a gliding section which actually fits the theme quite well. Maple Treeway is also one of the 2 tracks from this wave of DLC that includes some sort of half-pipe type area to pull tricks and also get some yucky coins. Ugh. Okay, the next track, Berlin Byways, has a lot to unpack because, as you can probably figure out, it is based on Berlin, the capital of Germany. This track features a whole lot of real-life places, buildings, and statues. Let's start off by looking at the beautiful Berlin Cathedral, which is located to your right when you start the race. Throughout the 3 laps, you'll be going through the Brandenburg Gate a couple of times, and there are even going to be thwomps blocking it at some point. Get those guys out of here! The road we drive on while avoiding cars is actually a recreation of the Straße des 7. Juni, which is quite difficult to pronounce, but it is also a street in central Berlin. Hey, look in the back there. It is the Berlin Victory column with the statue of Victoria, a Roman goddess, on top. Lap 2 will make you drive past the famous Berlin Zoo with its iconic elephant gate. Sadly, we don't get to visit the zoo in this track as it is closed to Mario and his friends. Bummer. You'll drive through the most popular park of Berlin, the Tiergarten, and for your final lap, you'll get to pass the Berlin Wall, now featuring graffitis of the many brands from Mario Kart, which is actually pretty cool looking. Also, watch out for those wumps, as they really want to crush you. Finally, you'll get to see the Chiller Monument before crossing the finish line and completing this track. As you can see, it was full of details, and yet again, it actually makes me want to visit Berlin in real life. Who would have thought that Mario Kart 8 would be the thing that got me into traveling around the world? I don't think I ever was the biggest fan of DS Peach Gardens, but I do have to admit that they really made it way more fun and interesting in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. First off, this garden is really looking good, and I'd actually love to share a cup of tea with those Shy Guys and Toads chilling on the benches and the little tables there while checking out the flowers and the grass hedges. Speaking of, the maze section has received quite the makeover, now featuring topiaries of Princess Peach, Toad, Toadette, and even my boy Luigi got one. Heck yeah! The Mario one is still at the beginning of the track, so don't you worry about that. Speaking of things that are still on the track, Monty Mole is still there, and he is as annoying as he used to be. Ugh. One thing I didn't expect about this track was the addition of this brand new section only accessible on lap 3, and after you jump off that ramp, you'll actually be driving the race in the opposite direction, which is definitely interesting, and gliding over the entire hedge maze is actually very cool. Now, this track truly is a Christmas gift, because of how cool it actually is. Merry Mountain is full of holiday spirit, featuring a beautiful Christmas tree, decorated houses, many different little booths where you can buy ornaments, gifts, and much more. There's also a bunch of giant gifts that I'd love to unbox right away, and we cannot talk about this track without talking about the flying train throwing out coins on the track. I was actually wishing for Santa Claus to be driving that train, but alas, in the Mushroom Kingdom, Santa is actually just Toad. Ugh. The track features lampposts made out of candy canes, as well as a bunch of candles that are actually shaped like green and red warp pipes, which is a neat detail. If you go to this snowy part of the track, you can see the entire village from up there, and boy does it look pretty. Sadly, unlike Berlin Byways, this track is all made up, so I'll never get to visit it in real life. Last but not least, 3DS Rainbow Road has made its appearance in this game, making it the 4th Rainbow Road track to appear in a single Mario Kart game. Now this is epic. Let's be honest for a second here. This track looks fantastic. Out of all the different versions of Rainbow Road, the actual Rainbow Road has never looked so good. This track will have you drive next to multiple planets, you'll see Earth in the background, as well as Neptune and Saturn. You'll even drive on the rings of this last one, so that's pretty epic! Landing on the moon near the end will reveal an anti-gravity section, which is always pretty cool, and you'll get to see 2 rocket ships with some astronaut toads just spinning around in a circle, waiting for someone to rescue them probably. Like, they don't look in control right now, somebody help them! So yeah, 3DS Rainbow Road is fantastic, and it's actually super nice to have this track back. Welcome to the Netherlands, and more precisely, welcome to Amsterdam. Obviously, being a Mario Kart tour track, you're going to see a bunch of real-life places. Starting off with the Royal Palace of Amsterdam, which is just beautiful. If you're interested in science, well, you'll be happy to know you'll drive real close to the Nemo Science Museum, which is sadly not open today, but that's okay, as we can drive through the Idge Tunnel or just glide over the river. And since this is Mario Kart, we can also simply drive underwater. But I probably wouldn't try this if you're actually driving in Amsterdam right now. See those 2 beautiful windmills in the back? Well, they're the Het John Shop and the De Zoiker Mills. That's pretty cool, eh? The Amsterdam Central Station is also part of your tour throughout the city, and so is the Montelbaanstoren, a tower on the bank of the Oudechans Canal. Before we end our tour, we will drive through the Rijksmuseum, which is the National Museum of the Netherlands dedicated to Dutch arts and history. Oh, and by the way, sorry if I completely massacred those landmark names. I don't speak Dutch, okay? I'm trying my best. Next up, we have Riverside Park from Mario Kart Super Circuit. Being from the GBA game, this one is actually quite simple in design and doesn't feature that many obstacles. The layout of the map has been changed a little bit, with this top left turn that has been completely eliminated, and this part over there where a wooden bridge was added. Speaking of additions, this cave area is completely new and ends up with a jump through a big waterfall, which is actually pretty cool looking. Although I would have seen a glider part there, I don't know why there isn't. A bunch of piranha plants have been added throughout the track, and they just like tiptoe their way through the track, which is super funny looking. This track also introduces the red parrot bird standing above the track and looking down at you. He kinda looks like Iago from Aladdin. DK Summit is back, and it brought back everything we loved about the Wii Classic and made it even better. You'll still get to experience all of the jumps you can trick on, as well as the snow bumps and the famous half pipe at the end. The track still begins with the DK cannon that shoots you to the top of the mountain and features a beautiful statue of Donkey Kong on a snowboard. The Wii version typically showed your Mii or Mario, so having Donkey Kong makes way more sense to me. There's a bunch of shy guys on snowboards going up the mountain and tricking off the half pipe at the end, so be on the lookout for that. And finally, a big Jumbotron screen was added near the finish line, broadcasting your impressive racing skills. Oh, and look, if we just move like right about there, okay, perfect. And now we look at the Jumbotron, we can see the Jumbotron in the Jumbotron. Jumbotronception! Well, there we go. If you haven't bought the booster course pack yet and were waiting for a track worth your hard-earned money, this is it. Yoshi's Island. This brand new exclusive track is filled to the brim with details from the SNES Classic, and if you've played it, you'll be thrilled by the nostalgia rush you're about to receive. First off, when you start the race, you'll hear the classic intro from the SNES game. Oh, and when you finish the track, the song will also be replaced by the one you heard in the game. This just makes me want a Yoshi's Island remake on Switch. And you know what? Yoshi's Island wouldn't be complete without my boy Poochie. And luckily for us, he's standing on top of Yoshi's mailbox, just vibing to the epic track music. There are going to be lots of obstacles like those shy guys on stilts moving left and right, trying to troll you. And there's also everybody's favorite chubby birds, the Uffin Puffin, walking on the track peacefully. And if you look in the background, you can see those shy guys that are using flowers as hair in the original game. Yes, they're back! The track is also filled with hidden details, such as the chain chomps in the background, the crystal caves, those flying goonies, the Yoshi coins instead of normal coins, and last but not least, the big blue dude that's on the cover of the freaking game. I think his name is Nep Enot, if I remember correctly. Anyways, close to the finish line, you'll be able to see a wonderful picture of Yoshi and Baby Mario in the classic art style of the game, and there's even a flower circle you can go through, just like the original game. But in order to get up there, you'll have to unlock the secret area by hitting this question mark bubble floating in the sky. It is not actually easy to hit it, but it's definitely worth your while, as you'll be driving on the red platforms and will be able to gain some speed and do a trick at the end. This track is pure fun and it's definitely my favorite one so far. Hey, we're in Thailand now, more precisely in the capital city, Bangkok. Obviously, we're about to see some very cool landmarks and locations, starting off with the Wat Arun Buddhist temple that is visible in the background right at the beginning. We'll also be tricking on some rowboats to travel across the Khao Phraya River to then see the Democracy Monument right over there. You'll be able to explore the Mike Long Railway Market, which is a market full of fruits and things to buy, but that is located right next to a railway. Woof, that's a bit stressful to think of, but we can just drive on top of the shops if we want to. This market ain't gonna be the only one you'll be exploring, as the train night market Ratchada is also on the track and you can bounce on top of it. If you want to visit it though, you'll be thrilled to see the menu and all of the foods you can experience. Neat. There's also a big tower in the background, and it's actually the King Power Manahakon Tower, and as you can see, it kinda looks pixelated, but that's because it's actually the way it looks in real life. That's some really cool architecture. The final lap will lead you through a parking garage, and once you're up there, you'll see 3 cars parked, and look at their license plates. 6069! Funny number! If parking isn't your thing and you prefer public transit, well, here's the BTS SkyTrain. And no, it has nothing to do with this BTS. It actually stands for Bangkok Transit System. Remember that Kung Fu Lakitu poster present in the Ribbon Road track? Well, you'll be happy to know that a sequel is coming out soon called Kung Fu Master Lakitu. Dang, this one's gonna be sick! There's a couple more statues you'll get to see as you drive your way to the end, and yeah, I think that's about it. I'm just gonna drink a bit with those 2 shy guys, and I'll see you in the next track. Hey, yet another Mario circuit has been added to the track list, and this one's actually kinda cool. DS Mario Circuit is pretty faithful to the original one, despite a few changes here and there, but the biggest change is the addition of this forest part right after you exit the pipe tunnel. It's basically just a change of scenery, but I do feel like it adds a bit of life to the track by doing so. There's now a wiggler that is sleeping on the side of the road during the first lap, but eventually it will wake up and will become an obstacle before going back to the forest, only to never be seen again. Bye bye, Wiggler. Princess Peach's castle is still there and as beautiful as it always is. And yeah, that's about it really. Oh, wait, there's now a sign displaying the teams competing in this Mario Kart tournament. I love how some teams have better names, like the Mario Super Motor Team, the Luigi Gusters, the Toad Mushroom Powered, or the Yoshi Runners, while some other teams just use the character name, like Princess Peach, Lord Bowser, and King Donkey Kong? Wait, he's a king? Well, you know what? I didn't know I missed Waluigi Stadium from Double Dash, but now that it's here in glorious HD, I actually realized that it was one of my favorite tracks ever. This track has received one heck of a makeover and is just looking fantastic. A bunch of cool details have been added to the track, like those red and black tires all over the place, and those metallic plants that come out of those pipes are now super dirty. Probably because they're getting splashed with mud as our racer moves through the track. There's a new section of ramps that have been added and that we can jump on, and they're full of anti-gravity bumpers to give you some free speed, which is always welcomed. The stadium is huge and filled with spectators cheering for you, and once again, there's a big Jumbotron screen which not only shows your screen, but also displays the current teams competing, just like in Mario Circuit. Last but not least, this wave introduces us to the beauty of Singapore. From the Art Science Museum to the Marina Bay Sands, you'll be going through a lot of beautiful places from this country. First off, there's this big, beautiful park, which is actually called Gardens by the Bay. And after driving through it, you'll cross the Helix Bridge, which is so cool looking. As I mentioned, the Marina Bay Sands is part of your tour, and man oh man, is this a cool looking resort. Like, it's 3 towers with a giant skyway connecting them all together. Truly spectacular. You'll be flying on top of it, which gives you one heck of a view, but you can also just relax in this infinity pool like this Goomba over there is doing. If you're wondering what this cool looking street is, well, it's none other than Chinatown, and it just feels amazing to breeze through it at night time. I use Google Lens Translate features, and this sign actually reads Chinatown. So yeah, that's a fun fact, I guess. You'll be gliding real close to the Merlion Park and its cool looking fountain. And there's also a soccer field you can drive on, but there are no goals or balls to play with. So that's a bit disappointing. Throughout the race, you'll notice that there's a big blimp floating in the background with the words Mario Kart printed on it. The original blimp used to say Mario Kart Tour, so they actually purchased a brand new blimp for this remake. Man, they are spending so much money. Welcome to Athens, Greece. And this tour track actually received quite the visual overhaul compared to what it looked like on my tiny phone screen. This will allow you to perfectly see the beautiful locations this city has to offer. Starting off with the Parthenon, which you will see a couple times during the 3 laps of this track. As you drive and check out the beautiful statues, you'll also end up in the Theater of Dionysus, but you won't be able to see some theater, as nothing is being played right now, which is a bummer. Thankfully, driving through Hadrian Arch will probably make you forget this, and this part will actually make you fly up to land inside a cave, which leads back to the Parthenon. Have you noticed this big statue that you can see from many points during gameplay? Well, it's none other than the beautiful statue of Athena, and wow, is it impressive! Speaking of statues, there's also 2 more with water flowing out that can be seen near the starting line. As you drive through the road up the Acropolis, make sure to dodge all of those rock boulders falling from the mountain and pay attention, as there's a secret cave right over there. Last but not least, you'll drive through an urban area with houses and roofs that resemble Monastiraki, a very popular shopping district in Athens. Before getting to our next destination, let's enjoy a relaxing break on the famous Daisy Cruiser. And my oh my, does it look pretty now in HD. The pool area is full of Yoshis and Toads relaxing, having a drink, and taking a look at this beautiful pool that features Daisy's face on the bottom of it. My favorite Goombas are back, relaxing on their floating tube, having the time of their lives. As you explore the top deck of the boat, you'll notice those banners all over the place with little mushrooms, fire flowers, cat bells, and other power-ups. What a missed opportunity to include the elephant fruit from the Mario Wonder trailer though. The dining room is just fantastic and reminds me of the Titanic. Well, you know, before it sunk down. Anyways, the tables are still being sent flying left and right, which would totally bother me if I was eating there, but it seems like the customers are not even getting bothered at all by it. They remain calm and are waiting for their meal while sipping on some wine. I find it funny that there's a closed section in the dining room and all of those tables there are not actually getting moved around. I'd probably sit the customers there instead, but hey, I'm just saying. This opened hatch full of water in this hallway is definitely a safety violation and it's a big hazard, especially considering that this is a big aquarium featuring the infamous eel. Please do not eat me, I beg you! And by the way, why are people looking at me like it's nothing and there's no danger? Let me out of here! I'm not a fish! If you decide not to fall in this water pit, you'll see some cabins where people sleep, but sadly we just cannot enter and visit one. Finally, I tried to see the islands around the ship to see if we could spot a familiar one, but alas, these all seem to be random islands. No Koopa Troopa Beach this time around. Oh, Moonview Highway, how pretty can you be? The first thing I notice about this track is that the view of the moon is actually pretty beautiful. You don't get to just stop and enjoy it normally, but just take a look at this. Wow. Sadly, the highway is actually riddled with annoying billboards and ads of various things no one really cares about. You'll cross 2 toll points when racing, and I noticed that the employees guarding the points are Yoshis and Shy Guys. And man, look at those prices! 300 coins for a bike, 500 for a car, and 800 for a truck? Man, this highway is hell expensive! I guess that's why there are so many taxis driving people around. It's probably cheaper that way. Entering the city will allow you to see a bunch of amazing looking buildings, like this one made out of question mark blocks and featuring sprites of Mario. Oh, and while you're in the city, why don't you go see Mushroom Moon the musical? I've heard it's actually pretty good. Hey, by the way, did you know that the speed boosts on the highway can have different patterns? Yeah, they're not always at the same place. That's kinda cool, eh? You gotta love how they actually release brand new tracks in those waves of DLC, and Squeaky Clean Sprint is just fantastic. This track takes place in a giant bathroom, so it features all sorts of products and things you normally find in one. There's toothbrushes, fresh mint toothpaste, a fabric softener guaranteed to make your clothes feel like a cloud. Of course, you'll see a bunch of soaps, some liquid soap, and Bloopers Strong Clean Detergent, the very best. Close to the bath, you'll notice a big radio and a bunch of cassette tape, which is pretty old school, but I can actually relate, as listening to music while taking a bath is actually kinda cool. Speaking of, this bath is actually pretty wide, and I love how there's a rubber ducky wearing a Mario hat, truly fitting. Also, this Goomba over there might look a lot like the one from Daisy's Cruiser, but this one is actually inflatable, as you can see. There are some bath bombs dissolving really slowly, and I don't know who decided to keep the water running before plugging the tub plug, but the water bill is going to be very high. And who drops their toothbrushes inside the bath? That is pretty sus. Inside the drain, you'll find a bunch of lost things, including this wedding ring, and when you're out of there, you'll fly above the toilet, which is kinda messed up. If water sprayed like this off my toilet, then I would panic for sure. On this wooden shelf, you'll notice a thermometer, a light bulb, and some Dr. Mario bandages, just in case you hurt yourself. Finally, there's this clock that's always displaying 10 past 10, no matter how long you play this level for. It would have been cool if the clock was actually displaying your Switch current time. Anyways, the view of the bathroom is awesome. It features so many details. Towels, washing machine, suitcase, and there's even a cap on the door. I'm pretty sure this room is in the same big house as the one from Ribbon Road. I was supposed to be in Los Angeles for E3 a month ago before it was cancelled for good, so being able to visit the city inside Mario Kart is actually kinda cool. Starting off on the Santa Monica Pier, you'll be driving real close to all of the cool attractions, like the Venice Beach Skate Park, the Pacific Wheel, and Muscle Beach. Oh, by the way, have you noticed the graffiti on the skate park ramp? It's showing bullet bills and bloopers, and it looks pretty cool. If you love baseball, you'll be thrilled to fly above the Dodger Stadium, where you'll notice these two banners of very popular players, Mario and Bowser. Mario's number is 64, which is a reference to the N64, duh, and Bowser's number is 98. Is this a reference to Troy WD98? Even though E3 is no longer happening, Mario Expo is in town, and I'll be attending it, so you should come and visit me. To finish our tour, we'll check out the Inglewood oil field, which isn't the most interesting thing ever, so let's just grab a burger before we head out. I was a bit sad that the Hollywood sign wasn't included in the background, but we can see this big millionaire house in the hills, so that's still kinda cool. Sunset Wilds, one of the best GBA track ever, is back and looking quite fantastic. Almost everything we love about this track is back. The little shy guys living in their tents, those walking on the track are all there, although they no longer grab onto you, but if you hit them you'll just lose a bit of speed and that's pretty much it. The track still features mud puddles and has giant dinosaur steps, which is a bit odd because there aren't any dinosaurs here. Oh well. The worst thing that happened to this remake is the fact that when you get to the final lap, the sun no longer sets down. The final lap used to be played during nighttime, and this is no longer the case, which is a big letdown. I really liked Koopa Cape in Mario Kart Wii, so I am pretty happy to see it back in the booster course. The track is pretty similar to what it was and very few changes have been made. The starting line now features a mechanical Koopa shell bouncing left and right in between those two pipes, which is actually pretty cool. There's actually a few more mechanical Koopa shells throughout the track and they look all shiny and pretty. The underwater section near the end is back, although you're no longer in a tunnel underwater, but more inside of a half pipe that is submerged, so you'll definitely get wet. Being there also allows you to see all of the cool fish, Cheep Cheeps, and even the giant eel who's just chilling in the background. The Thundershock thingy that used to shrink you in Mario Kart Wii is nowhere to be found and was instead replaced by those anti-gravity boosters, which turned a difficult section into a pretty easy one. We're in Canada, eh? Would you like some maple syrup maybe? Welcome to Vancouver, where you'll get to enjoy the snow. Yay! The Capilano Suspension Bridge will be our first stop, and if you're afraid of heights, you might not want to look down. If you enjoy nature, you'll be able to check out the Lost Lagoon, but if you're getting cold, well, you might want to warm up by going inside of the Vancouver Public Library. You can't leave Canada without enjoying a little bit of hockey by visiting the Rogers Arena, which has been renamed Mario Arena in that one. The score is still 0-0, but trust me, we'll eventually see a goal. Or maybe not, since they're not actually playing hockey, aren't they? During the final lap, you'll drive in the George Macy Tunnel, and once you're out, you'll be able to visit a local bakery, a cafe, a snack, and a tea shop. Perfect for a great souvenir. Welcome to a brand new place, Rome, and this tour track brings along all of the best places you can visit in this beloved city. Obviously, you cannot visit Rome without entering the Colosseum, the most famous arena built in 72 AD and home of the Roman Empire gladiator fights. It seems that in 2023, the gladiators have now been replaced by hungry chain chomps that eat a metallic floor. Ooh, still pretty scary, to be honest. Speaking of scary things, there are rocky wrenches hiding in the manholes as you drive through the Piazza Navona. Hey, look at this beautiful fountain! Is this the Trevi fountain? Well, of course it is! And we can even drive through the water in this underwater section. This track also features the Villa Borghese Gardens, a beautiful garden featuring lots of museums and attractions. Man, after seeing all of these amazing places, I'm just craving some pizza. Oh, would you look at that? I can order some right there. Haha, nice. I am so happy to see this big angry volcano once more. I missed you, old friend. DK Mountain is back in all its glory, from the giant DK barrel that shoots you to the top of the mountain to the infamous bridge where a lot of Mario Karting happened. Do you remember this classic clip? Yeah, oh, wow. It is still very painful to watch after all these years. Anyways, this remake features tiny DK barrels all over the place and you'll want to avoid them as they slow you down quite a lot. And speaking of being slowed down, this shortcut near the end where you'd fall off the ledge has been nerfed, with new wooden fences that protect you from falling down. Kinda cringe, bro. The downhill section still contains the rock boulders that can crush you, so be on the lookout for that. Hi, I'm Daisy! Everyone's favorite princess circuit is back, and this one actually looks quite good. The Luigi and Daisy fountain statue has never looked so shiny, and I just find myself getting lost in my thoughts looking at it. When are we getting a new year of Luigi? Should we even get a new year of Luigi? Wait a minute, Luigi and Daisy don't have mouths? This statue is actually ugly. Wow, this track is ruined, 0 out of 10. Just kidding. Anyways, this track is pretty similar to the original version, but it adds a few new ramps here and there. An advertisement for Daisy's Candy can also be seen, which is kinda cool, as I didn't know Daisy had her own candy brand. In the background, far away on the Great Sea, we can see Daisy's cruiser just chilling there. And I really like that they added that detail, as we can now race on both Daisy Circuit and Daisy Cruiser in the same game, which is really cool. Well, would you look at that? A track from Mario Kart Tour that doesn't actually take place in a real-life city. Now that's different. Piranha Plant Cove is actually pretty cool looking, as it features underwater rooms with Piranha Plant statues. The underwater section also contains walls with hieroglyphs of the 8-bit Piranha Plants from the good old NES Mario game. Tons of creatures live in this area, such as thwomps, morays, clamps, cheeps, jelly beans, and bulbers. Some of the runes in this track might have been inspired by the Temple of the Feathered Serpent of Teotihuacan, but since it's mostly underwater, it also could be based on the lost city of Atlantis. Near the finish line, there's a lot of little toads swimming around, waving their arms, and just having a good time doing some scuba diving, which is kinda cool. Welcome to Madrid Drive, another track from Mario Kart Tour that's based on a real-life location. As you can now expect from these, they feature tons of famous hotspots from the city. The starting line allows you to take a good look at the Puerta del Sol, a public square and one of the busiest places in the city. One of the coolest looking streets, the Calle de Preciados, is also present and features 2 shops, a restaurant serving churros and torrijas, as well as a tablao establishment, which is actually a place where flamenco shows are performed. Man, I wish we could enter this theater, as I'd love to see a toad dancing some flamenco. as you race through the city, you'll cross the Viaducto de Segovia, a bridge that connects the town and the Royal Palace of Madrid. You'll also drive underneath it at some point, so you'll actually get the whole experience. More streets will be visited during your race, notably the Gran Via, one of the city's most important areas where you can do some shopping. My favorite place to visit is definitely the Prado Museum, which is a national art museum. But I'm gonna be honest, I think Mario and his friends have hijacked the paintings, cause most of them are now showcasing Mario, the princess, Toads, Piranha Plants, the Koopalings, and Daisy in all sorts of cool scenarios. One of my favorite paintings is that one where they all build a Mario snowman. Looks pretty cool. Be careful while visiting the Plaza Mayor, as a Wiggler now sleeps there and wakes up during lap 2. Finally, if you're a fan of sports, the track will also allow you to enter the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, but to be honest, I'm not really sure this is how football is played. 3 balls, Goomba shoes, and no nets on the goals? Yeah, this match might not be actually legal, but I'll go check out with the official first. Okay, I'll let you know once they get back to me. Put on your winter jacket, because we're jumping right into Rosalina's ice world, and we might even end up jumping in the cold water itself. This track contains a bunch of little houses with star doors, probably houses for all of the Lumas traveling around the cosmos alongside Rosalina. We can see the Comet Observatory near the start line, or at least part of it. It's not as detailed as it is in Super Mario Galaxy, but I'm pretty sure it is the observatory, as it even features the sun in the middle, which is the energy source that you have to power using Grand Stars in the first Mario Galaxy game. If you take a look in the background, you'll also notice some small planets floating around, and they actually are very reminiscent of the starting planets in the Gateway Galaxy. Some cute penguins have been added, and they hang out on the ice river, up until the ice finally breaks, and then they just swim around underwater. As for new additions, the track now features 2 half-pipes where you can do some cool tricks, making this the first 3DS course that features them. Pretty cool, eh? Whoa, I almost didn't recognize this SNES classic track, as it has received such a big visual upgrade. Bowser Castle 3 is fantastic looking, and it is the first SNES course to feature anti-gravity sections. This will be quite helpful, as the track features elevation now. Just like the original version, the remake contains a bunch of thwomps ready to crush you if you're not being careful. Near the end, you'll have to avoid being too close to the green pipes, as they contain evil dry bone piranha plants waiting to get a bite of you. The first section of the track features an active volcano in the background, which reminds me quite a lot of the Grumble volcano track from Mario Kart Wii. Could it be the same volcano? I guess we'll never know for sure. Not gonna lie, it feels good to be back on Mario Kart Wii's version of Rainbow Road, as it's a pretty solid one. This remake features a couple cool details that you might not see while moving super fast, but if you take a step back and look around you, you'll notice that there's a bunch of star bits floating in space. I'm trying to collect them with my Wiimote, but nothing happens! In the background, at many points during the track, you'll see this big planet with a rocket ship that has landed on it. Is this our means of transportation and how we got in space in the first place? I don't know, but one thing that I do know for sure is that these big star tunnels are actually working exactly like the launch stars from Super Mario Galaxy. Heck, even the sound effect is pretty much the same. As we are in space, there's gonna be a couple planets in the background, and we can see Earth when we move down. Thankfully, if we do fall down, Lakitu will catch us before we enter Earth's atmosphere. Whew, thanks a lot, buddy. And that's it. I hope you learned something new. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy holidays. I'll see you next year. Bye!